Hello, it's Tuesday, December 4th, 2018, and you're watching LifeTalk. I'm Mark Crutcher, your host, and I'm joined by the usual suspects, my daughter Sheila and my assistant Renee. Hello.
Hi.
How are you? Boy, we got a jam-packed show today, and we better get to it.
Yes, we do.
All right, Sheila, you had something that was really pestering you before we got going, so let's talk about that real quick.
So in Belgium, Belgium is going to investigate 3 doctors who euthanized a woman with Asperger's. In Belgium, Belgium is one of 2 countries, including the Netherlands, where they can euthanize people for psychiatric reasons. They poisoned this woman named, I can't pronounce the name, a 38-year-old woman in 2010 who had been diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. 2 months afterwards, she was euthanized by a doctor by poisoning. Apparently a legal killing that she had asked for. However, they're being investigated because her parents said that there were irregularities in her death.
Well, first off, people might say, well, why are you covering something happening in Belgium? Mm-hmm. Because I've said this many times before. Everything we've seen, any place where abortion was legalized that eventually resulted from abortion being legalized, we will eventually see here.
Because it's a lack of respect for life.
Right.
And what makes me so angry about this story, besides the respect for life, is I have a best friend. I'm not going to say her name, but she has Asperger's. So it'd be like me going up to, let's call her Susan, saying, hey, Susan, you have Asperger's. Your life is, must be pretty awful.
Not
it
as
must
good
be
as
pretty,
mine.
Yeah, pretty tough. So why don't you get a doctor to kill you?
Right.
I can't imagine my life without Susan. She's one of my best friends.
Well, I've met her, and
Yeah.
you could introduce her to 1,000 people, and no one would ever suspect that she had anything.
I have a friend like that too, and I just can't imagine life without her as well. And as you know, this is unconscionable. Who in the world would euthanize somebody because of a mental illness or depression or anxiety? Everybody in this world has those issues.
They're saying depression or personality disorder. What's a personality disorder?
Exactly. I mean.
But here's to show you what kind of people we're talking about, and this is typical because we've seen this same thing in abortion mills.
Yeah.
We have an interview with a young woman that had an abortion with Dirklitz Carpin that is almost unbelievable to listen to what they did.
Yes, it is.
But anyway, in this particular case, the doctor, if you want to call him that, who did this euthanasia, had the woman's father hold the needle to steady the needle while the doctor administered the fatal injection, and he said he fumbled around a lot. And afterward, the doctor had the family use a stethoscope to confirm that she had died.
Yeah, I wouldn't call them family. I wouldn't call him a father.
Yeah, there are questions about the family aspect of it and why they even allowed it, but
Right.
It's the lack of respect for life. I mean, people just need to put their differences aside, quit being selfish, egotistical, and respect life.
well, this is what happens when you have socialized medicine. It makes it easier and cheaper just to kill somebody than to let them live, just like abortionists.
Right, yeah. Now, you had a story there that you found pretty
Yes.
angry.
This was on my social media page. There is a Utah abortionist, Leah Torres, that has been very active on Twitter.
Yeah.
Very. And so this is a very old, cringy response that a lot of pro-aborts make. And it's just, it's old, let's get over it, okay? So this abortionist defends killing babies. A fetus needs permission to reside in a uterus. Okay. It irritates me so bad because God is the one that actually placed that baby in that womb at that time. It wasn't.
But if you think these people believe in God, you're dreaming.
Are we supposed to go up and say, hey, baby in there,
Do we have your permission to leave you alone?
yeah, can we kill you or can we let you live?
Well, the baby had permission to reside in that uterus when they had unprotected sex.
Well,
And this abortionist,
even if you have protected sex, a natural outcome of pregnancy. I don't care if you took 10 birth control pills, you got condoms, you got gels, whatever. You can still get pregnant.
Yes, you can.
And when you have sex, protected or not protected, you take that risk.
Yeah, she argued that unborn babies do not have rights until the umbilical cord is cut, which happens after birth. And then she deleted a post that said, earlier this year, Torres said that she cuts unborn babies' cords so they can't scream.
Oh, so unborn
Yeah,
baby.
wait a minute. Let's make sure people understood what you just said. She said in a post earlier this year that she cuts the cord of these unborn babies so they cannot scream.
That's right.
So if they're clumps of cells, how are they screaming?
Why do clumps of cells scream?
I mean, this abortionist, we follow her and on our accounts and stuff, and the things she says are ridiculous. She is an evil, evil woman. I would like for her to try to debate you. You would put her in her place and show her, show her for what she is. She is a media attention.
Don't say it.
Yeah, I'm not. She wants her 15 minutes of fame, and she always says outlandish things.
Let me tell you something. When you read these posts, and I've been down this trail for almost 40 years now, when you hear people say things like this, they're not trying to convince you. They're trying to convince themselves.
Yeah.
She's trying to convince herself that what she's doing okay. And one way you do that is to make sure you don't hear the baby scream, then that makes you feel better. Doesn't do anything for the baby.
Well, yeah, and the comments that she gets that is applauding her for this just makes her feel even better, too.
Yeah.
That's right.
So let her go up against you and see how
She wouldn't.
Yeah.
She would be a
Now, here's a interesting deal. There's articles being circulated around, especially on, of course, NPR has picked up on these articles. These abortionists talking about employment contracts they have with hospitals where they work. Tie their hands
Right.
and don't let them do abortions, not only at the hospital, but even away from the hospital. And they found this outrageous. Noelle Leon is a lawyer with the National Women's Law Center, and she says, quote, institutions are using the institutional religious and moral beliefs to interfere with employees' religious and moral beliefs. That's not what's happening. Of course, she's lying, and she knows she is. But the question here then becomes, let's say, because what your suggestion is that as a hospital, you have no right to know or to limit or to discriminate between one person and the next based on what their religious and moral beliefs are.
I mean, if
you
you're
have to take everybody that walks in the door.
I mean, if you're part of a religious hospital, like a lot of Catholic hospitals are, they have missions and objectives and stuff that they expect their employees to follow.
Right.
So
Whether they're on duty or not.
And so you have this person over here says, "Oh, I'm a doctor for this hospital, but I want to perform abortions." That doesn't make sense.
Well, here's what I would ask these people, and there's this woman that's getting a lot of press right now because she claims she was denied employment because she wanted to do abortions, and that this is wrong, and this Noelle Leon and this National Women's Law Center is saying that they have no right to decide what people do off on their own time. I would ask these people, let's say you owned a piece of property, you owned a building, and somebody came to you and said, we want to lease your building. You had it up for lease, and they say, I want to lease your building for a social club. It's just a group of people that get together and discuss the day's events and politics and so forth, and it's just a little social club, and we want to lease your building. And so you lease it to them. And what it turns out is that they're the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah.
And they're going to put their local Klan chapter in your building. Do you think you had a right to know that before they did it? Now, this is off your premises. It's not your premises anymore. It's none of your business what these people do, right? If it's none of your, if it's none of a hospital's business what their doctors do off premises, then it's none of your business if these people want to put a Klan chapter in.
Right. I mean, and what good legitimate doctor would want to perform abortions?
No.
And what staff at this hospital is going to want to help assist in the abortion?
Yeah.
I mean, and for her to want to do this as her free time at the abortion, really?
Right.
Yeah.
Because she walks away feeling like she's done something real important.
Well, yeah, that's what she said.
Real important.
We see a consistent thing around the country where conservative speakers are denied the right to speak at colleges, and of course you expect that from the Berkeleys and the
Harvard
or Yale or these godless leftist schools. But the problem is we're starting to see this more and more commonly in Christian schools.
So-called
Christian schools. In Wheaton, Ryan Baumbarger was a speaker there, and we know Ryan. He's a really good guy. He's black. He's pro-life. He's
The Radius
Radiance Foundation.
Yeah.
And he gave a presentation at Wheaton called Black Lives Matter In and Out of the Womb, Evangelical College. And he was the guest of the Wheaton College Republicans. And he touched on the hypocrisy, which we've had him on our show talking about, of the Black Lives Matter leadership announcing its solidarity with Planned Parenthood, the leading killer of blacks in America, right? And he's talking about the hypocrisy of this. Lauren Rowley, Wheaton student body president, and Tyler Whaler, the student body vice president, and Sammy Shields, the EVP, whatever that means, signed an email directed to the entire college claiming that Baumbarger's talk distressed people of color on the campus. And they said that his comments surrounding the topic of race made many students, staff, and faculty of color feel unheard, underrepresented, and unsafe on our campuses. How are they unsafe?
They're not. Well, only by the people that are protesting.
Right.
Only by the people whose feelings got hurt from learning the truth.
Meanwhile, at Gonzaga, this is a Catholic university, Judy Biggs Garbuglio, I guess how you pronounce her name, she's the vice president of student development at the college, declined the college Republicans' request to allow Ben Shapiro to come speak on the campus. Now, Ben Shapiro is Jewish, really hardcore pro-life,
Conservative.
very conservative, and they said he couldn't be there. They couldn't. This is on a Catholic university.
They said that it was contrary to the school's Catholic/Jesuit mission and values.
Right. It says, we stand in solidarity with, it says, this is the core of our mission based on the teachings of Jesus Christ and the foundations of the Society of Jesus. We stand in solidarity with vulnerable members of our community who may be targeted for discrimination, ridicule, or harassment by others. And she said that's the reason they couldn't have Ben Shapiro. Well, this members of our community who may be targeted for discrimination, ridicule, or harassment by others, wouldn't that be the unborn? Aren't they about the most vulnerable people you could find?
They cited as safety concerns because of protests and stuff.
Well, that's a good point. Because, and you're right, they did cite that. And they said that that very often when these conservative speakers come to these campuses, there's these violent protests and people get hurt and property gets damaged.
It's from them.
It's from them.
Yeah.
It's from the Judy Biggs Garbarello.
It's not from the people who support the speakers. We're going to protest our own speaker.
Just like Berkeley, when a conservative speaker went there and they burned the school.
Right. They burned the campus.
Yes.
But it was the leftist. It was the godless leftist, the pro-aborts, the media. It was that side of the deal that does it. So what the godless left has figured out is something very clever, if you think about it. In order to shut down conservative speech, we go there and we create a lot of violence.
Yes.
Then the next time one of these guys wants to speak, our comrades, our fellow travelers on that campus will say, oh, we can't have them because they engender violence. Yeah, it's violence that you create.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just...
Yeah, that is pretty brilliant, right?
But let me point out something here. In the past, Gonzaga has had some pretty bizarre speakers. They had Angela Davis. Now, I remember Angela. Y'all don't remember because it was before your time. But Angela Davis was a rebel rouser, so to speak, back in the 60s. She was on the FBI's 10 most wanted list at one point.
Isn't she a big communist?
She is a communist. She's an open communist. And she was on the 10 most wanted list by the FBI for purchasing firearms that she, and I think she was a member of SDS, Students for Democratic Society, or the Weather Underground or somewhere, whoever she was involved with. They were going to shoot a federal judge. Yeah. And they were looking for her for purchasing the guns that they were going to do this. In 1969, she went to Cuba and praised socialism there. And Fidel Castro welcomed her in, of course. They had her speak at Gonzaga,
Right.
but not Ben Shapiro.
Because the right doesn't go and do all the crazy things
Right.
that the left does, which they say that as pro-lifers are the crazy ones. Really?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Since when?
Gonzaga has also supported many pro-aborts and same-sex marriage people as commencement speakers and shown same-sex marriage groups on campus have been welcomed, and gender fluidity, where you can decide that you're a male this week and next week you're a female, and then you can go back and forth, I guess. They had the vagina monologues play on campus. Been totally unsupportive of pro-life organizations.
Yeah, well, I mean, it just shows where they stand, and a bunch of these universities are, in the same way. They, have these liberal, pro-abortion speakers, and student body, praises it, and then when they, when a conservative pro-life speaker wants to come on campus, they get all up in arms about it.
It's just astonishing. But the thing about it is, the thing that's so aggravating here is that the reason they're able to pull this off is because they do violence and destroy property and harm people. It's they who do it, and then they profit from it the next time one of these conservative speakers wants to go on a college campus.
That means they need to arrest all of those people that cause property damage and violence.
They need to arrest them and also kick them out of the university.
Yeah.
Yep. And parents who are paying exorbitant student fees for these kids to go here ought to be taking their money out of these schools.
That's right.
And don't be supporting them.
That's right.
And it's obscene. But anyway, before we're going to go to RoeBots here in just a second. But there's something happening down in Mexico that's important.
It's not the immigration.
It's not the immigration deal this time. Mexico has just elected a hardcore left-wing politician named Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador as president. They call him AMLO for all his first name initials. Anyway, he was just elected, and he's not taken office yet, but he and Trump are starting to become friends and side. Well, of course, we do need to be friends with Mexico.
Yeah.
But anyway, he's announced a woman named Olga Sanchez Cordero, who is expected to become his interior minister and she is, before she's even in office now, her big deal is legalizing abortion across Mexico.
Yeah, because it's illegal right now in
parts of most of Mexico. Now, we used to work with a young lady from Florida who was Hispanic, and she worked with us on Alpha 21. She has since passed away, but she was very active in the pro-life effort in Mexico, and she used to call us. Matter of fact, she called me several times from the Mexico City legislature. Anyway, she was saying that when you went into Mexico and you went to the political events where they were trying to get abortion legalized, what you overwhelmingly saw was Americans. There was not a big hue and cry from the rank and file Mexican people to legalize abortion. It was from Americans. She said you saw the place just fill up with lawyers from New York and from Washington, D.C. You saw all the representatives from NARAL and NAF and Planned Parenthood and the Center for Reproductive Law and Policy, ACLU, all of these leftist, godless groups, pro-aborts.
From America.
Showing up in Mexico trying to get abortion legalized. Mm-hmm. And she called me and she said, I don't know. She said, I'm encountering all these people. I know who they are. And she said, why are they here in Mexico? Why do they care? The answer is very, very simple. Mm-hmm. Yep. They're hedging their bets. If abortion becomes illegal in the United States, which they think eventually it will be,
with Kavanaugh in office,
with all the other things that are happening,
right. Mm-hmm. Yep.
That they're concerned that if abortion is made legal in the United States, they want to be able to have abortions continue. Mm-hmm. And I am 1,000% convinced of this. And we saw some evidence of this back when we were doing the initial investigation into baby parts, because there was a connection to Mexico in all that. And there still is. Their fallback position is going to be, if abortion becomes illegal in the United States, we're going to put a chain of abortion clinics all along the border, South Texas, South Arizona, New Mexico, and California. There's going to be a chain of abortion clinics on that border. I wouldn't be surprised that they're already out buying land that's close to the border.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. A lot of people already go over the border for medical procedures that they can't afford here. Right. And so, these abortion advocates, are going to start shipping people over the border, for
Right.
abortions, and it's
So
inevitable.
I think that, and they're also going to do the same thing in Canada. And of course, abortion's already legal in Canada. So now all you got to do is get Mexico, and you've got the United States
Crunched
sandwiched in between two pro-abortion countries. And I wouldn't be surprised that some of these people either already have options on land, or some people like the Gateses or Warren Buffett or George Soros have already bought land right around the border in Mexico, bordering Texas, bordering New Mexico, Arizona, and California, where they can put up a chain of abortion clinics.
That would be interesting to find out.
It'd be interesting to know if that was true, and I'm almost guaranteed that it's happened in Canada.
And what a lot of people in Mexico are Catholic. A lot of,
Right.
Mexicans are against abortion. And so they're trying to.
They're forcing it on.
Yeah, exactly. And
They're good at that.
That's what this lady was telling us. She would say, we're down here in the legislature, and I'm walking down the hall, and I'm seeing all of these lawyers in $1,000 suits from NARAL and NAF and Planned Parenthood walking up and down the halls. And she said, nobody in Mexico is up in arms trying to legalize abortion. This is all rabble-rousers from the United States.
pushing it on them.
Pushing it on them.
So-
And it's obscene.
Yeah.
Speaking of obscene, when we come back from RoeBots, we're going to be talking about, we're going to close out the show by talking about some research that's been done by Jim Sadlack, our friend at American Life League, over how much money Planned Parenthood is making. And so when we come back from RoeBots, we'll be dealing with that.
In 1973, the U.S. Supreme Court legalized abortion nationwide. The decision is called Roe versus Wade, and those who defend it are known as RoeBots. This is how they think.
Planned Parenthood does a lot of good for people, and besides, abortion is only 3% of what they do.
There is an old saying that figures don't lie, but liars do figure. And Planned Parenthood's 3% defense is a textbook example of it. To put it bluntly, it is a well-calculated lie. Ask yourself this: if General Motors sells 3 cars at $35,000 each, for every 97 items it sells through its parts departments at $25 each, would you say that car sales are only 3% of GM's business? Obviously, only a complete idiot would come to that conclusion. But that is precisely how Planned Parenthood defenders come up with this 3% claim. But let's say for a moment that these people are not lying and that this number was accurate. The question would be, so what? Let's say we could prove that lynching was less than 3% of what the Ku Klux Klan did. Would that make lynching more defensible and the Klan less repugnant? That same dynamic applies to Planned Parenthood. Whatever the actual percentages are, the undisputed fact remains that they operate the largest chain of abortion mills in America and do more abortions than anyone else in the country. And nothing they can do would even begin to offset the millions of babies they've already killed or those they continue to kill every day. Look at it this way. If a serial killer was convicted of raping and butchering a couple of hundred women, no one would give him a pass just because we found out that he volunteered at a homeless shelter and gave money to feed the poor. That same standard applies to Planned Parenthood. Even if you honestly believe that they do some good along the way, that doesn't change the fact that they are high-volume serial killers. Welcome back. As I was saying a minute ago, we have a friend, Jim Sedlak, who's now the executive director of American Life League, and I've known him for many years. He's a good guy. And they do a lot of research into Planned Parenthood. And recently they've released a report just taking figures directly from Planned Parenthood's filings with the IRS. It's pretty interesting. Planned Parenthood has 56 affiliates around the country. For the first time in history, one of those affiliates had income in excess of $100 million in 1 year. One affiliate, they got $109.7 million in income according to the IRS. This was the Planned Parenthood Marmonte in California, of course.
San Jose, California.
Right. $109 million in 1 year.
Yeah.
In that year, they received $70.4 million of that $109 million in taxpayer money. 70 million of the 109 million was taxpayer money. And at the end of the year, they reported an excess income on their IRS filing of $15.5 million, even though they paid their top 6 employees $1.3 million in salaries. But they had $15.5 million left over at the end of the year. Now, y'all think they sent that money back to the taxpayer?
No.
Oh, I'm sure they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
They're
did.
so honest.
No, they put it in the bank and added it to their bank account, which now, at the end of the year, are you ready for this? This one affiliate had $37 million in cash after adding this $15.5 million, and another $71 million in other assets. They had over $100 million in assets, made $109 million that year, and took $70 million from the taxpayer and had $15 million more than they needed and didn't return it.
They're rolling in money. They don't even know what to do with it.
The CEO of that affiliate made $403,814 during that year. Now, interestingly, of those 56 affiliates they all have CEOs, of course. This one made $400,000. She wasn't even the highest paid affiliate. The one, Dara Johnson of Planned Parenthood of Pacific Southwest, made $523,677, $500,000 running an affiliate of Planned Parenthood.
Yep.
The average compensation for a CEO at a Planned Parenthood affiliate during 2017 was $255,523. Now, at the national headquarters, average compensation to top executives at Planned Parenthood, Federation of America, is now over $390,000 a year, and CEO Cecile Richards made $744,833 in salary alone, not all the perks and benefits. Salary alone, cash money, $744,833. Now, here's something I find really revealing. 6 of Planned Parenthood CEOs are in the top 1% income bracket. 8 of the nonprofits management qualify for top 1% income bracket if we add the rest of the staff.
Don't tell me that.
And then they're the ones always talking about the 1%, right?
Yeah.
The godless left, of which these people are almost the spokesperson for, they're always talking about the 1% need to pay more.
Don't tell me that Planned Parenthood's business isn't about money with figures like that.
That's what Troy just said. He said blood money. And then Tulane says they call themselves nonprofit.
Right. Yeah.
They are for profit and also for profit with our money.
Our money.
Yeah, our taxpayer
if
money.
this isn't enough to burn you up, I don't know what
I don't know what
besides
would
the
be.
killing of our babies.
I do not want
the thing that
these
people need to
jerks
understand.
paying.
You got $744,833 in salary alone to Cecile Richards. The average one of their affiliates, CEOs, makes $255,000. The highest paid one made over $500,000. This one affiliate raked in $109 million in 1 year and had $100 million worth of cash and assets in the bank. This money came out of the paychecks of people that make $30,000 and $40,000 a year.
Yeah.
I do not want American people, to be paying these jerks this much money, or any money, period, to be killing babies.
They should all be in prison, but instead they're out here making all this money.
You know,
and people are supporting them.
Anyway,
I would like to see their financial records. I bet that's,
well, these are the financial records they give the IRS.
Well, I
These are the
know.
ones they admit
But
to.
I mean, like, if,
Yeah, right.
the IRS did an audit of them, I would like to see what's going on behind the scenes in their financial records. I bet that is
This is an obscenity,
Fabrication.
but this is where we are. I need to get off this subject before my blood pressure starts going through the roof. Anyway, y'all got anything else?
I don't have anything else.
How about you, Sheila?
my blood pressure is already there.
Okay. Well, anyway,
The stupidity of people not respecting life, killing babies, and paying people to do it,
yeah,
including our money.
it's mind-boggling. Money they take at the point of a gun out of our checks and give it to these people. Anyway, is that it?
We appreciate y'all's comments and questions and show ideas. we've received tons of them, and we love them, and we use them if they fit what we're discussing and
the
what's
time,
going
yeah.
on. And so anyways, if you have anything that you want to share, just send it to us, and you'll get the mug.
If we use it.
She's on me. She can't. There we go. You get the mug if we use your show idea. So
Yep.
we appreciate it, and we thank you.
Absolutely. Anyway, that's all the time we have. Until next Tuesday, remember, Life Dynamics is not here to put up a good fight. We're here to win, because winning is how this killing will stop. We'll see you next week.